Hello, welcome back. I'm Andreas Chatt, your tech-curious web designer. In this video, we will dive deeper in the concept of continuous integration and we will build a feature toggle. With this toggle, we can disable and enable a feature in our database to hide or show code in progress. But first, let me point out some benefits of a CI workflow and the use of feature toggles. So, why is it a good idea to have continuous integration and a feature toggle? Well, firstly, because of compatibility. If we constantly push and fetch from the staging branch, we make sure that our code remains compatible with the rest of the codebase, and conflicts can be resolved early on. Secondly, progression. If we commit our code regularly to the staging, we keep everyone involved in the project informed about the progress, and with feature toggles we can hide unfinished features. And thirdly, flexibility. With feature toggles, we are flexible to release code to the live site whenever we want, while at the same time continuously integrating code changes to the project. And this is how continuous integration looks like as a workflow diagram. A constant cycle of fetching, developing, pushing, merging, testing, and releasing. Rinse and repeat. Alright, and now let's jump into the code and build our feature toggle. For this feature toggle, I will create now a new app, so it has its own table and logic self-contained. We create a new app with Python, manage.py start app, and I call it a_features. Now our features folder is here. Let's add this app now to our installed apps. So we go to the settings.py file and add it in here. a_features and save. Alright, next let's create a table. With a table in a database, we can easily switch on or off a feature by clicking a checkbox. Alright, let's go to our features folder and here to models.py and let's create our table. So I call the table feature and these are the properties. So this feature has a name, then a developer. So here we can add the person who works on this feature. Then we have checkboxes. The first one is staging enabled. By clicking this, the feature is enabled on the staging side. And we have production enabled as well. So we can show a feature immediately on the live side too. Then we have the created property to see how long this feature was in development. Then we also have the string representation to show the name of the feature in our admin interface. And we order it in the database by created. Alright, save this file. Now let's register this model in the admin.py file. So first we import the feature class for models, and then we register it for our admin panel. So admin.site.register and in parentheses feature. Alright, save this file. Next, let's do a migration to our local database to add this table. So Python manage.py make migrations. Python manage.py migrate and spin up the server. So Python manage.py run server. Alright, let's go to our admin panel now. We see here now our new features table. Let's create a new feature. And the feature I'm creating for this demonstration is a new call to action button on my hero section on the homepage. So I call this feature hero button. Okay. In the developer field I add my name. And for now staging in production is not enabled. And save. Okay. We see the name of the feature here in the list. However, on this page I would like to see more information. For example, if this feature is enabled or not. We can do this by adding an admin class to this model, where we can customize how this table is displayed in the admin interface. So let's go back to the admin.py file. And here I create this admin class now. And this class has the name of our table, so feature. And then I'm adding admin with a capital A. Like that. And in parentheses, we write admin dot model admin. So this class has now a property called list display. So list underscore display. And here we add all the properties we would like to display. So first we have the name. Next, we have the ID, which we will use in our code to reference this feature. Then I also would like to display the developer who is working on this feature. So developer. And then finally, we add here the values for staging and production enabled. Like that. Now this list is completed. Let's register it by adding it next to our feature class. Okay. This should do. Save this file. And let's check it out. Let's go back to our admin panel and refresh. And as we can see, this information is now displayed here as well. Awesome. Alright, now let's build out the logic for this feature toggle. So in my features folder here, I'm going to view stop UI and create a function here which checks if this feature should be enabled or disabled. So I call this function feature enabled. And first let's write down the logic in plain English so we understand how it should work and what we need. So the feature should be enabled if I am in my development environment, but also only if I'm the developer. So, and I am the developer. So that's my first condition. Or when this feature is enabled for staging in the database and I'm on the staging side. So staging is enabled and I am on the staging side. Or, and then we have the third option, if production is enabled. So we have three conditions here. If one of them is true, I want the feature to be enabled. So feature underscore enabled equals to true. Otherwise, so else, feature enabled is false. Alright, and then I return this variable feature enabled. So I return here a Boolean value of true or false. Okay, now that we have written down the logic, let's build it out now. So first we have if in development environment. So here I'm accessing the environment variable in our settings file. So let's import settings. And here we check now if the settings to the environment is equal to development. And also if I am the developer. I want to hide it by default on other developers' local environment. So for this I will create a developer environment variable, which is unique for each developer. So let's go to settings. Under the environment here, I first add here a comment that this code is for the feature toggle. Alright. And here I'm adding now my developer variable. So let's go to the env file and add here the developer variable. And as value I give my name, so Andreas. With this variable, each local development environment is unique to the developer. Okay, save this file. Let's go back to settings.py. Let's save this file and back to views. And here I'm adding now this variable. But instead of writing down the name of the developer, I use a parameter here. Like that. So when we call this function, we need to supply the name of the developer. Okay, this wraps up our first condition. Because we're using here a and or in this line, I have to group the condition together. So I put everything in a parenthesis here. like that. And then let's add a new line. And for this, I have to add here a backslash, like that. And then I can continue in a new line. So let's look at the next condition now. So if staging is enabled in the database. For this, we first have to fetch the feature object. Let's do that now. So on top here, I'm adding feature equals, then I'm accessing the feature table. Let's import this feature table. So from models import feature. Then I'm accessing here the objects. And then .get. And I'm accessing the feature by ID. ID equals ID. And add the ID as a parameter. Alright, now that we have our feature object, we can access the properties. So in here I can write now feature.staging_enabled. So if this is true and I am on the staging side, for this we add an environment variable again, but just on the staging side itself. So let's go back to our settings.py file and declare a staging variable. So I call it staging. By default, this is false. We add this variable to our staging side with the value true. Okay, save this file. Let's go back to views.py and add this variable here and check if the value is true. Okay, this is our second condition. Again, I wrap it in parentheses. And I add a backslash. And for the third condition, we check if production is enabled in the database. So feature.production_enabled. Okay, this should work. Let's save the file. And let's test this code now in practice. For this, let's assume I'm part of a team and I'm starting to develop this new hero button feature. My very first action should be to fetch the latest code from the staging branch from GitHub. I have been working in the main branch so far. I'm switching to staging. It is asking me here what I want to do with the changes we just added. I want to bring them to the staging branch, so I click that option. Switch branch. Now I'm in my staging branch. Now let's fetch origin. As I'm the only developer so far, there's nothing new to fetch. But now let's create a new feature branch for my feature. So in here, I click new branch. I call this branch feature underscore, then the name of the feature. So hero button. And I'm also adding here the name of the developer, Andreas. Then here I can choose on what branch I should base it on. I would base it on the staging, as this branch should always have the latest version of the site. And create branch. And I will also bring all the changes we made so far to this branch. Okay, as we can see here, we are now in this feature branch, and we can add now the code for our feature. So let's go now to our home view and add the functionality of the hero button toggle, and then add the code of the new button to our template. So I'm going to my posts folder, and here to views.py. And here on top I have my home view. So here I would like to implement my feature toggle. So first let's import our toggle function we just created. So from a_features.views import feature_enabled. Now we have the function and let's add it just before context here. So I declare a new variable here. So I'm calling it feature_hero button and equals. Then I call the function feature_enabled. And then I add my two parameters inside the parentheses. And the first parameter here is the ID number of the feature. So it's ID number 1. And I'm adding here the name of the developer. So Andreas. Alright, and now let's add this variable to the context to use it in the template. Alright, save this file. And now let's go to our hero.html file and add a new button. So I'm going to the templates folder, here to includes, and here to the hero.html file. The current button says get started. Let's add a new button now which says create account and also add some new CSS styles. So here I'm adding now if feature underscore hero button. So if this hero button feature is enabled, I add here my new code. Else I show the current one. And if. Let's format the code properly. Like that. Okay. Now I copy this line, add it in here, and I say create account. Okay. Let's also change the appearance of the button. So I just hard code here a few CSS styles. So style equals. Then I increase here the padding, change the background color, and also make the button more round. Alright. Let's have a look at our website now. I open it up in a new browser. Awesome, we see our new button. Just a quick info here, the background color of the site should actually be dark gray from our last video. It is white here because I opened the site in a new browser which cached the old CSS styles. But in production, we will see later, it will be dark gray. Okay, now let's do a few tests. First, let's change the name of the developer. This should revert it back to the old button. I will just add here an additional S to change the name. Save the file. Refresh. And as we can see, it falls back to the old version. This works. Now let's test with a feature which doesn't exist. So I change this back to Andreas. But now let's say I want to access feature number 2, which doesn't exist. Save this page. Go back. Refresh. And as expected, we get an error message. So in that case, we should wrap our code in a try except block. So I'm adding here try and accept. And in that case, I add feature hero button equals to false. Okay, save this file. Refresh. And yes, we don't get the error message anymore. Okay, let's switch it back to 1, and save this file. Alright, let's test this feature toggle now on our staging side. So first I do a migration to my production database. So in settings, I change this momentarily to true to connect to the remote database and save. As I change now the database, it already tells me here to do a migration. So let's do that now. Python manage.py migrate. Okay, now our Postgres database is updated as well. We can switch now back to false. Save this file. And now we're ready to push our feature branch to GitHub. So I give this commit a title, feature toggle, and hero button. Okay. Now I click commit to this branch. This branch doesn't exist yet on github.com, so publish branch. And we're pushing it to GitHub. Now the code is on GitHub. Let's create also a pull request now. So I click this button here. Here I change where I would like this feature branch to merge into. So I would like to merge it into the staging branch, not the main branch. So I change to staging here. The title is already filled out. And I click create pull request. It is checking now if everything is okay. Obviously no conflict so far. And now we merge pull request. And confirm merge. Okay, let's go to render now. It is deploying right now to staging, but we are still missing our staging environment variable. Let's add it now. So let's go to environment and add the variable staging and set this to true and save changes. Okay, we can go to events and wait for our deployment to finish. Okay, the changes are deployed. Let's check out the staging side. So as we can see, the feature is not enabled at the moment. Let's go to our admin panel. And let's go to features. We have not created this feature yet in this database. So let's add this feature. Hero button, developer myself, and staging enabled. And save. Okay, let's check it out on the website. A refresh. And there it is. Our button is enabled now on the staging side. Now let's say we are happy with the feature and we would like to release it on the live side as well. Then we create now a pull request to the main branch. So I click here on pull requests. Then I click here compare in pull request. Then I select here staging to main, that's correct. And add the title, new hero button. Then create pull request. Merge pull request. And confirm merge. Alright, now those changes are merged to the main branch. Let's check out render. Let's go here to dashboard. And we can see our live site is deploying at the moment. And our code is deployed. Let's check out the website. At the moment this feature is not enabled on the production side yet. Let's enable it now. And I click production enabled. And save. Refresh. And there it is. Our new button is now live on the site.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Obviously, if this feature is now staying permanently on the site, we should clear out as next step all the if-else statements in the code. Alright, this is all for this video, thank you for watching. In the next video, I will demonstrate how a new developer can work on this project, create its own feature, and we will also see how we can resolve a pull request conflict. I hope to see you there. Until next time, happy coding! Bye bye for now.